Today's episode is brought to you by the House of Fraud. The House of Fraud is the best community for fraud leaders and fraud experts to share and learn from each other in an exciting and engaging new format. In addition to our discussion community and the incredible fraud jobs board, the House of Fraud has 7 completely original series, like Building a Suit of Armor to Protect Your Business from Fraud with Alexander Hall, Rant Time with yours truly, where raw fraud truth meets practical solutions, Fraud Stories in Real Life with Brian Davis, where fraud experts share their most pivotal moments of their careers, and even a completely unscripted fraud chat with all 3 of us that you never know where it's going to go. Come see what hundreds of your fraud-fighting friends already know by using the link in the description below. Get your very own membership to the community, because no one goes to school for fighting fraud. I'll see you in there. Hey everybody, welcome to the Post-MRC episode of Fraud Boxer. I got Tully here. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, darling?
I'm doing great. Well, welcome back. You know, it's been, for us while we're recording this, it's been about a week since we all got back, approximately. But how have you been?
Still in recovery and doing follow-ups, so.
Yeah, since you're on the vendor side, I'm sure you have a lot of work to do. We won't really get into that because I don't want to have to go through like 15 weeks of approvals. So,
I know.
But how are you feeling though? Because I know there was a bout of Norovirus going around for people that had the conference through. Did you hear anything about that?
I got it. That was brutal.
Did you? So crazy. I didn't get that, but I definitely got like Vegas voice. I got like I'm on a lot of Dayquil right now, but I didn't get the Norovirus. I tested for COVID. I did not have COVID. So yeah, how was that? Like, it was brutal, huh?
Absolutely brutal. Totally deleted my weekend with my brothers out in Vegas. And so, yeah, just recovering from that and recovering from MRC in general.
Yeah, so you stayed a little longer and did some more fun stuff out there?
Well, that was the idea. I was supposed to go camping with my brothers out there.
Camping?
Do some, yeah.
Like desert camping, like van life style camping?
Not even a van life tent.
Like tent? That is ambitious.
Yeah.
Don't you work in tech? You're not allowed to be in tents. You're supposed to be in vans.
No, that's the whole point. Disconnect from the technology and the tech world.
I don't think I can ever do that. Like, I am a tech guy through and through and through. And I grew up in Oregon where you're supposed to be like, tent camping was what we originally did. But now looking back, it might have just been because we were kind of poor. So it's kind of all we had. We didn't have RV life or any of that. But I don't think like sleeping on the ground, like I can't do that anymore. Now there's air mattresses and all that, but I don't see a world where I could tent camp anymore. It's just, maybe I'm soft. So be it. Like, that's just life. So how was MRC for you?
It was awesome. I mean, every year I think MRC gets better and better just because you know more and more people and you become friends with more and more people. So it's just becomes more of a community rather than a job whenever you go.
Yeah. And that's what, like, well, I think one of the things for me this time, I was really thinking about, like, at what point does it become just like a business trip with my friends versus like actual work, you know, at the end of the day. I think for me specifically, like I get there on Sunday. I know a lot of people do get there on Monday. I highly recommend for people that don't normally attend that you get there on Sunday because there is a lot of stuff to do on Monday. And we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. But I like to get there on Sunday. I like to get in, get settled, get unpacked. I'm one of the type of people that like fully moves into my hotel room, like 100%.
Same.
So like everything's in the drawers. It's super comfortable that way. I like to just be there. I enjoy like just being in the conference mode. So I like to get there early and get prepared for that. And then like, you know, I have a couple of cocktails, gonna get settled. I try to do my pool party, but this year it was like 60 degrees on that one, like that Sunday. What? So we ended up staying inside. We were just at the Lyft bar. March Madness was happening, so that was kind of cool. Actually, one of the funny things is like I went into a Lyft bar and on Sunday. It was probably about 1 in the afternoon. I got there at 11 and my room was actually ready. But there's nobody in there, like 0 people in there. So I got my $25 Buffalo Trace Old Fashioned. I was going to watch some basketball and I sit down at one of the tables. And the waitress comes up to me. She's like, "I'm sorry, sir. Like, it's $100 minimum on this table." And I look around and there's like 0 people in this bar. Like she has nobody else to serve but me. And I was like, I just look at her, I'm like, well, considering I just paid $25 for this like single old fashioned, I have no problem probably going to hit that $100, like trying to watch this thing. So but then like everybody kept coming up to me, like they like Ryan McDonald, you know, how's their house fraud guy, was coming up to me, and I'm like, do not come on the other side of this, because I was right up against the edge of the bar to the outside of the casino. I was like, do not come on the other side of this because she's going to make you pay $100 minimum for this table. I'm like, you just sit out there, we'll talk, you get a drink and order it out there, and you don't have to pay the minimum. So I was like the only person sitting in at the table. So that was kind of nice, you know. But
wait, was it $100 per person?
That's what she said. But then she saw I had like 15 people come up to me throughout like my time sitting there. She's like, okay, fine. Like, we'll just do $100 for the whole table. And I was like, okay, that's a better call. I was like, because she's making money with all these other people coming in, you know, like, but like,
does she want to make no money or does she want to make some money?
Yeah, right. And then there was nobody else there, like 0 people there except for me. And then the people that I brought that like weren't really wild. Like I missed all the games, which I'm not really into. This is my first year ever doing a bracket anyway. I didn't really care. And my bracket was so busted by that time, it didn't even matter anyway. So, you know. So yeah, I get there Sunday, and then I know Monday, looks like they kind of did a little shuffle around because I think Women in Payments used to be on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or has it always been later in the week?
I thought it was actually on like a Tuesday or the Wednesday. I was surprised that it was the last day of the conference.
Well, me being a male, I might just be wrong about that, and I have no problem admitting that. But I always thought it was like some sort of thing on a Monday, but that would make more sense to have it later in the week because that's when the majority of people are there. But I know Fraud 101, Fraud 201 were there. Like Tim Russo was doing like the 101, and I think Lee was doing the 201 and stuff too, if I'm not mistaken. But those are for people that like, you know, are kind of new to the industry. I highly recommend taking those. And then people that have been here a long time, it's always good to get a refresher. But that's usually what the Monday is like the paid courses.
And we're to be taking these courses in order to understand that side of the business.
And I think it's super important. Like, I think, especially if it's like your first time where you're new to the industry, like, even if you think you know it, it's super good to take it. I've taken 101 at least 2 times. I've taken 201 once. One of the things that I wanted to do, and it was my bad for not planning, was CMSPI had a workshop on like how understanding like cost of payments and those sorts of, like, it was kind of like a lot of math involved in the payments. And I thought it was included. So I was like Martha and Liz from CMSPI were running it. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there, everybody. I can't wait. And then like I go to like open up the app to go in there, and it's like, it's a for additional fee. And it was my bad for not planning. So I was not able to make that one there. But I mean, I think a lot of the Monday stuff is like additional fee stuff. But I mean, it's reasonable fees, and they count for the continuing education credits anyway. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What day did you get in?
I do the same thing that you do. I like to get in, decompress, prep, have all of my ducks in a row, because I'm just normally running from meeting to back-to-back meeting. So I just like to not have to worry, move in exactly how you do, with everything in the drawers, everything's pressed and, you know, perfect to go. Get my mental game hat on properly.
Do you iron all your stuff the day you get there too?
I steam it.
You steam it? You bring your own steamer? Or do you get the steamer from them? They have one if you ask for it.
I trust their tech. Like, a lot of their stuff doesn't work in hotels. They really need to do better at like making things work properly. So I just
a
have
lot of people, like, I would say that, you know, Aria, we've been going to Aria for, I think it was 11 years this year. Because 12 years ago I had a Facebook memory pop up, and it was at the Wynn, and that was the first one that I went to. So 11 years we've been at Aria. And I would say the Aria is starting to show its age in the rooms a little bit. Now, we've seen a refresh, all of us that have been going a long time. Like, I mean, they swapped out the iPads, put a couple of new things in, new TVs, that sort of stuff. But some of the things they don't is like the ironing boards, it seems, are a little degraded in the irons. I know a couple of people were saying that theirs was lumpy. Mine definitely wasn't good. I started ironing like for about a minute, and I was like, look, this is probably going to make my life worse. So I just put it all back away, and then I wore different clothes. I didn't wear my dress shirts except for the first night when I had dinner at STK.
Like, rely on their stuff, because if I iron it and it ends up burning it because maybe the temperature on the inside of it, the regulator is wrong. No, I'm not. I bring 4 outfits.
You bring 4 outfits? That's it? Jeez, I bring 4 a day. Like, I significantly overpack for this thing. Like, and I did it for Meg too. It was a lot. But you know, why not? But I would say that, like, you know, coming back out of the COVID years, where we had to do an MRC in September once. I think it was September of 21. If I'm not mistaken, the weather was like 110 degrees there. It was super hot, which was nice for my swimming life. But that was where we didn't really have the classic show floor anymore. Like, it was kind of, there was booths around the edges of the main room, because I think it was only 800 people. I think it was like 400 merchants, 400 vendors there at the time. But MasterCard had a really cool session that time, which MasterCard also does that on Monday too. They do like a 2 or 3 hour session where they talk about their new, like all the new changes that they have coming down the pipe, whether it be for any new like chargeback reason code things, any new timeline changes. So they do a lot of new stuff there, any sort of like authentication updates that they have. So that's happens on Monday too. So everybody get there Monday, like get there Mondays, like, or be there Monday, get there Sunday. Like, you still get the room rate block. You actually get the room rate block, I think, even on Saturday before, if you want. And I know some people that get there really, really, really early. That's a long time in Vegas, especially when, and we'll get to Aria prices outside of my $25 old fashioned in a little bit. But there's a lot happening on those Mondays. But I will say, like, it's nice to see a super robust show floor again for all you vendors, having large booths, having a lot of people, walking around. The booths are impressive again. Finally, actually, my last quarter sponsor, Sardine, they called me before the show and like, well, what do you like when you go to these shows? I'm like, I like an impressive booth. I like to see a cool booth. And so they went back to MRC and I guess upgraded their booth and moved it forward. And I said, it looked pretty cool. I'll put some shots of that up on right now, probably on here, of like what that booth looked like. I thought it looked pretty good. So yeah.
You remember the days whenever it was just primarily just those like screen, really difficult to put up backdrops and just like a little tiny table. And it was like, okay, this is my booth. And I understand cost and everything, but it's getting more and more competitive with like having interactive booths and like larger booths going not just wide, but tall. It's insane. These are massive building structures basically within our little community.
Yeah. I mean, some of them like are hanging a lot of big things from the ceiling and all that, which is, it's crazy if you really think about it, because like I've been to a lot of different types of trade shows in different industries. Like I started out in fashion. So a trade show called Magic, Men's Apparel Guild in California is, it's actually in Vegas, is like my first like big conference that I ever went to. And it was like, that's huge. That's like all of Las Vegas Convention Center, all of it. Plus it spills over to Mandalay Bay and extra places there. I see your face. Did you not know that?
I know I didn't. I used to work in fashion too. So
Really? What company did you work for?
I was a model in the 90s.
I used to hire models for our booth to wear our clothes. It was, so quick story. We'll talk about that for a minute. So I used to be a men's buyer for a chain of retail stores in Oregon it was originally called Fuel Surfskate Moto. So it was like a Zoom East carbon copy. We eventually changed the name to Munition Surfskate Moto, primarily like Fox, Volcom, Etnies, like those types of stuff. We sold hard goods. So I was the men's buyer there for 5 years. And this was in early 2000s. But after I left that, I moved over to the apparel side on the juniors side. So I worked for a company called Sugar and Rocks. I think they got acquired by somebody. But we used to go to Magic and we would hire models like yourself. And then it was really useful because like when buyers on the other side of the table then came to my booth, I could say, here's what it looks like on a person. So we had a little changing room, and like they would say, we want to see like these 4 on her. And then she would go put them on and she'd come out and turn around, see how the fit was, see how the length was, because length was super important. It was back when the tunic look was really big. Well, I would say that was like 2008 and 9. So like long shirts over leggings was very, 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 it was the look. It was everything. And we very much were early on the tunic game and like the over dyes and all of that stuff. So you were a model in the 90s, huh?
Yeah.
Did you have to do what I just said? Like go put the stuff on? Or were you like booth paid?
No,
or
I didn't hear the trade show modeling. I was primarily runway.
Okay. So one of the things at Magic is like they have the runway out in the middle of like the 2 halls. And I don't think a lot of people see it because I think for what the type of people that are buying at Magic, it isn't necessarily like Dior. It isn't like high fashion. It isn't like Paris Fashion Week. It's it's mall fashion, So, what's really funny is back when I was a little younger and I was a little fitter, I also did some white runway stuff, but on the men's thing, like I would put like cargo shorts on, and like a button up and I would walk. I did it at a couple of malls, modeled our clothes, but that was Very long time ago. Did you work for a specific brand, or did just any brand, like you were just the model that was hired and they would just put clothes on you in the back and then you walk out?
I did high fashion runway, so I worked in Paris, New York, London, Milan, and just did that twice a year, that cycle.
So you would wear anything. Like you didn't work for like Dior or like Chanel specifically.
I did runway for a lot of the large designers like Calvin
Yeah.
Klein and Laurenta, but they change their what they want. So every season, as far as looks go, so you get hired one season, you don't get hired for the next, and stuff like that. So it's
Did you
just
have an
like
agent?
a different, huh?
Did
Yeah,
you have an agent? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah, did a couple of them.
That's pretty cool. Wow. We all had
Yeah,
different lives before we got into this, huh?
I know. I had heard you had sold the skateboard stuff, but I didn't realize it was the actual clothing because that's all the stuff that
Yeah.
I wore.
The
Like as a
skate
teen, I was model, but I was wearing all the skate clothes like Volcom.
Yeah,
So
so the skate company was a company that I had founded. It actually was in between the when I was a men's buyer to when I did the women's stuff. The women's stuff was like, well, my skate company kind of burned up in 2009, 10 when it was when the economy was super dead. So it's like really hard to get those luxury things. So
yeah.
I pivoted back, and then one of my old friends that I used to buy from, she had started Sugar and Rocks at that time, and then I joined them for probably about 6 months or so, and then just sold that. So I only did one of the magic shows with them, and then I came back and I started doing tech again because like I mean I just need stability. I need a stable paycheck. At that point in my life, I was 25. Woo, I was 25 when I left the fashion industry full time and then started back in tech, and that's when I started at T-Mobile, and then all the way through, and then yeah.
So you ever worked for a tech startup?
Yeah, I worked for Gift up in the Bay Area. It was we did gift cards. Yeah, and there's a couple other companies like I think a lot of people know the company called Prezi right now. It was the
Yeah.
same concept as Prezi, but earlier we got acquired by First Data, and then First Data got acquired by like what is it Fiserv? They're Fiserv now, right? Yeah. So I was that was like the only true startup, like true startup that I worked at. That had like the investors where the investors would like walk through the room. Like one of our investors is Ronnie Lott, and he would like just like walk through the office. And as a 49er fan, it was pretty cool. Um, I mean, technically, I guess Fandango would be a startup, but we had already been acquired by NBC Universal when I had joined. But when I joined Fandango, there was only like I think there was 35 of us that worked there, so it was a really,
Yeah,
really,
that's
really
true.
small building. But I would say that company, as far as like brand awareness, have really punched above its weight. Like I had known about Fandango before I ever moved to California with the little bag puppets. Um, and it was surprising for me that when I walked into that building, how few people were there running it. And we had run a pretty, I mean, we were like pretty much the only place you could buy movie tickets online. And like there was only like 35 of us chilling in there. And so that was pretty cool. Like actually Dwayne that was at the show, I don't know if you met him, but him and I got hired at Fandango on the very same day. So it was like, it was surreal to come back to this MRC with him joining his new company. And then now having fraud fall under him. So he's like, I'm going to come to MRC and see what this is all about. And it looks like he had a really good time. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
which is more difficult, a fashion startup or a tech startup?
I would say a fashion startup is harder because you have to make product. And when you have to know how to source the materials, and then need to know how to like get it at scale. So for people that don't
Yeah.
know, the fashion industry starts about a year ahead of time before you ever see something hit the shelves. So we spend the first 3, 4, or 5 months of that creating, getting samples, and then tuning the actual like how the manufacturing process is going to be. So about 6 months before it ever hits the shelves is when the buyers see it. So then they see so right now, what is it? We're spring. So they're buying fall into winter right now, all the buyers. So they're just getting shipments of shorts for their shelves, but they're looking at sweaters and jackets and parkas and that sort of stuff right now. And they're also looking at their open to buy for holiday and what it's going to be. But the majority of these companies that are showing these what's called samples are the ones that are made like locally. Like LA has a huge fashion area. They make a ton of the actual product in LA. They do a lot of the dyeing, a lot of the cutting, a lot of cut and sew is done here. And they are working on that now. And then they're trying to figure out how they can make, 10,000 pieces of that. That's why a lot of times and it can really suck as a buyer, is you see something that's put on a model and it's a certain color and the patch on it is a certain placement or the laser cuts are a certain way. And when that product finally arrives in your stores, it does not look like that because the manufacturing process could not be done at scale. So they try and sometimes sneak it in, or the color will be way wrong. And then you have to then decide if you're going to keep it and if it's acceptable, or if you're going to try and return it, RMA that, and then for credit. And then a lot of times they're going to push back and say you can keep it for a discount. And then that makes your margins look really good. So if you can sell one and then you get like a 25% discount, then all of a sudden your margins go from 40 to 50. So things matter, you know? So,
Or you bulk sell it to the discount stores to then sell.
Yeah, TJX will come in and just buy everything that you have that you don't want to sell at all. And that's, I mean, it's super interesting. You know, we get so mad at like companies like Roxy Quicksilver because we would just be getting the shipments, but they don't want to be stuck with a whole bunch of t-shirts, you know? So then they just unload their entire warehouse to TJX. And then I got a Marshall's in the same mall that I'm in selling the same shirt at 50% less. So we'd have to argue with them about that. That was a constant battle. Yeah.
That's so wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's the business back then is, you know, nobody wants to be stuck holding inventory that they can't sell. So if TJX will come in and say, we'll buy everything, you know, at this price, like, why wouldn't you sell just to get rid of it?
Even more so the responsibility of being a buyer, you have to like basically predict what your market within that store is going to be purchasing. And if you're wrong, then you end up losing margin. And it's just like,
yeah. And that's what, like, we would have areas. I mean, I don't know what kind of podcast this is turning into, but we would have, we would have like stores in, this was like before, it was like when MySpace was just coming out. And that matters because before MySpace and social media, people didn't get to see each other and what each other was wearing as much. So what you would see people wearing in Ohio versus what you would see people wearing in California was very different. And that was true for even micro economies too, where it's like what people are wearing on the coastal region of Washington versus a metro area like Portland, Oregon are very different. So you had to be aware that you could sell certain types of items in the Portland store that you could never sell in like the Aberdeen, Washington store because they just didn't get it and they hadn't seen anybody ever wearing anything like that, you know? But I think once like MySpace and Facebook came around, everybody could see what everybody was wearing like instantly. And it really changed the name of fashion. You know, obviously MySpace was big in the emo days and I was a big emo guy. But that really made fashion kind of level set across a nation versus just like these little pockets. And you still get a lot of people, like a lot of old dudes in the Midwest are still wearing cargo shorts and white New Balance shoes and high socks, you know, that will never change, tucked in t-shirts that are faded. Nobody wants to see that, but like that's still very popular there. But as far as like the youth goes, it's very much like everybody, like you'll see like right now for women, for example, the off the shoulder hoodie thing, like the short zip up off the shoulders with a tank top underneath is like that's nationwide. That's everywhere. And thank you, Taylor Swift, for doing that. You ruined everybody's lives. Now we got to look at that all day long. But that's like the most popular thing in the whole world right now. Same thing with like the super baggy jeans again, which I think is horrific. I've talked about this on another one of my shows. But like, it's just, I think that the form-fitting clothes, it doesn't have to be skin tight. I'm not saying that, but I think form-fitting clothes look best on people just because like we're people. Like we're not just like a stick of denim straight down, you know, that's just my opinion, but you know, yeah.
We're also not just sticks. I mean, that stuff looks great on sticks.
I think that like, and I said that on my other podcast, like it's on this show, but like a couple episodes back, is like, dude, like this whole focus on fitness, like coming out of COVID, like everybody's trying to get as fit as they possibly can. And then they just like cover it all up with denim. Like, why? Like you worked hard for that, like flaunt it, you know? But I mean, that's that's just what I do, you know, like all day.
I'm going to get a pair of Jinkos and wear them next time I see you.
So there was back to MRC. So at Proper Food Hall, where a lot of us were eating lunch that didn't get norovirus. By the way, Proper Food Hall, like it's double their prices. So last year, I pulled a receipt from last year. I was eating at the sushi place that they have there. Last year, it was between $10 and $12 for a roll for sushi. This year, it was $24 to $36 for the same exact rolls at that proper food hall. So I don't know, like, and Steve on my team, he's a big Starbucks guy, and he said that his drink that he normally gets was double at Aria.
Mhm.
And I know that like Aria is just pricey. That's just what it is. And we have to deal with that, and that's fine. But he brought up an interesting point. Do they raise the prices just for conferences? And I was like, probably not, since like they literally have a conference all the time at Aria. Like they're fully booked in conference. There's always a conference every week, but which is great for the hotel. But like I would say that price raise on the sushi was egregious. But there was a gal that was working at Proper Food Hall that was like cleaning the tables, and she had Jinkos on, and I hadn't seen Jinkos that big. Like she had the big ones on. I hadn't seen Jinkos that big in 20 years at least. Like she had like the super stovepipe 27-inch leg ones. And I just remember I was like, whoa, I'm like, it's actually back. Like it's actually back. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the spirit of conventions and fashion, what do you think of, like, I love the way, I was speaking with some of my male colleagues who are wearing dress shoes with their suits, and their feet were killing them because male dress shoes are not comfortable either. And this was the first year that I discarded the heels and I got a nice pair of tennis shoes instead. And everybody's wearing tennis shoes with their business suits, which I think is adorable and way more.
That's funny because I heard somebody say the opinion that they hate that look like this was before the conference.
Really?
I have totally been fine with it. I think that casual footwear has come a long ways. So I used to wear like my cool dress shoes. I would wear suits. I wear this jacket now with the jeans. And then I was wearing Allbirds shoes this time because I think that they do a really good job of blending a casual look with just enough of a look that you can wear it like on stage and stuff. But I did yesterday just take delivery of my first pair of On Clouds that I'm sure everybody's super excited about because Tracy, when she was on the show, she was talking about getting the On Clouds. So I saw a lot of people wearing the On Clouds at the thing, and I wore them. I took my team out to lunch yesterday, and I wore my On Clouds for the first time, and I would say game changer, absolute game changer. So I am going to probably be wearing that footwear going forward at all conferences. But I think it doesn't. What? The what?
Insanely comfortable?
What about it? Are they comfortable?
Yeah, were they like insanely comfortable?
Like, yeah, like it feels like you're not even wearing a shoe. And like, so one of the things that I always have a problem with Allbirds is like they kind of hurt the middle of my foot after a while. Like my feet get really fatigued wearing them. And I think it's just because they're so like cheap isn't the right word. We'll say sustainable. They're so sustainably constructed that they don't have a lot of support. Now the On Cloud is more of a traditional shoe, like a traditional tennis shoe with like this crazy weird bottom. It looks like a squiggly line. I'm sure you've seen them.
Yeah.
But that because it has a more traditional construction, it has more traditional support, which I think, there's a lot of like Nike and Adidas, like they don't charge that amount of money just to make it look like that. Like there's research that's gone into like how it actually holds your foot in there, where the support is. And I would say that Allbirds was like, fuck that. We're just going to make a shoe looks like this, when On Cloud put more of the traditional research and development into the shoe to make it fit and sit right. So those are my conference shoes going forward. I'm actually going to go buy the yellow ones right after this. So yeah.
This was not a paid plug for On Cloud.
Not at all. But if On Cloud, if you are listening, like I am a size 12, and feel free to send me all of the different ones, and I'll talk about them on every single show. So what'd you wear? So you ditched the heels, and what'd you wear?
Traditional. You'll always see me at a conference in pretty much primarily black because it's easy. You spill coffee on it and nobody's going to notice. And then I can't remember the brand of tennis shoes that I purchased because other than climbing shoes, I can't memorize brands worth anything. But they were just a nice pair of like really nice tennis shoes that went with the rest of the black outfits that I was always wearing. So how did you feel the show was overall for you as a vendor? And we're not going to say your vendor name because they can look it up online. But for you as a vendor, how was this show for you specifically? And I want to talk about like my thoughts on sales this show. For me, it went really, really well. I know it can be difficult for a lot of people new to the industry, but because I've been going to this conference for 10 plus years and I've worked for numerous companies within this convention sphere, I just have the relationships already built to where this is, like I said, more so me coming into my community every single year than it is a sales gig. I just know everybody so well. Sales doesn't really have to happen. So I'm lucky in that respect. So
Yeah.
MRC is always fantastic for me. And this year was even more slammed than ever.
Yeah, there was like 2,000 people at this one. Do
Is
you stand at the booth a lot, or do you take meetings with people that you already know?
I'm slammed with meetings with current clients and prospects the whole time. And then I just run by the booth whenever I can in order to help out the staff and say hi. But we're senior level, so we are not expected to be at the booth. We have
Yeah, with
BDRs for
those booth, yeah, booth people.
good training for EDRs because they're training to be salespeople. So they get to have more face time and do their little elevator pitches. And we had amazing BDRs, but
Good. That's good. I mean,
I was
I thought, like, I think there had been like some people that had worried about last year about how the structure of the show floor was set up.
Mhm.
But I think that it seems like it was pretty well done this time. I didn't seem like there was any, like, there was no hidden booths. There was no people that were
Yeah.
getting lost, over in the corners or anything. Um, it seemed like the flow was really good. And it seemed like the a lot of people it was always busy on the show floor when I was in there.
Uh,
So that's good to see. It's
yeah,
wild.
there was
Yeah.
never dead.
It's wild for me to see like how many companies are in our space now. And I mean, I guess there's always been a lot of booths, but there's always been a different type of booths. Like I remember like when tokenization was new, there was a lot of like new token providers that was out there trying to do like third party tokens. And then obviously a lot of chargeback companies. There's always new chargeback companies coming up. That's a big thing. I think that's usually what gets people to come to the conference first because they got in chargeback trouble. And they've never even heard of a chargeback before. They're like, what's a chargeback? And then they get there and they feel like they see there's like 12 companies that are fighting chargebacks on their behalf, so they can totally outsource that if they really want to. But I would say like it's just so wild to see like, and I talk about it on a couple other shows too, like a couple other episodes where it's like it used to just be like three, like you had a certify, you had threat metrics, or you had count, and then all the
Mhm.
other stuff that you did around that was like extra, like your extra sauce on that. And then there was like
It-
the IDV companies, like the address verification companies that come up, but now there's just so many. We have the orchestrations, we have the payments, we have the payment orchestrations, we have, more than a dozen different fraud providers. And you never know who's going to be using what anymore. And it's weird to see like the legacy companies kind of take a back seat to like the new hot upstarts. But there's just so many booths now. There's so many different things you could do. It can be overwhelming, sometimes.
I think it's overwhelming for a lot of them if they're new, but it's just such an amazing place to go once a year in order to literally find, like, to interview every single product that you could possibly need in your tech stack. And that's the great thing about it. It's like the holistic ecosystem now rather than just a few fraud vendors and a few chargeback vendors. You can handle your payments and everything like that. And then on top of that, the education is absolutely amazing. And that's why a lot of merchants have been telling me that they have gained up on getting an MRC membership and sending their staff to it is, like you said, the fraud 201, the payments classes,
Yeah.
and then just the public speaking on behalf of fraud trends or payment trends. It's just literally 4 days of
It's
extreme education that is so important.
Yeah, and like I won't be able to put any video over the top of any of the sessions because those need to be secret. But I would say that the sessions that I went to were so well attended. Like
Mhm.
it's it's pretty rare that you would see one completely fill up all the way. Um, every one that I went to was completely full with people standing around the edges, which is so cool to see, like people actually caring about those sessions
Mm.
and wanting to learn. And there were some really good sessions that I think it's really interesting to see the people, because there's obviously still like the basic ones. And when like I'm on the conference committee, so I help with curating those, and we want to make sure that we have content that's accessible to people that it's their first conference. Like it's important that we have that. And the but there's also like some more technical stuff around like what are bots doing, how to stop bots, like that are far more technical. What's actually happening? Not just, oh, a bot is, scripted computer coming at your website doing this and that. It's like, what really happens? How are these really doing it? What are these people really, really, really doing? And how are they monetizing these different things, and how you can actually work to stop that? And I think that it's so cool to see like people coming to these more technical sessions at the show, as well as really well attending like your fundamentals, as we'll call it, sessions as well. So I think it's really cool to see that. And then like I thought Julie did a fantastic job with her opening remarks too. Like I love when you have tangible numbers that you can see how something's moving along. And like she had some great numbers that she put up there about like the growth of the MRC and the growth of the industry, and like as it's been evolving, what's been happening. And it was really cool to see that. So hopefully we could keep that momentum going along here. Yeah.
I think they will. She's already got some great ideas forming for like various different DEI communities within MRC, and women in payments and fraud is always full. I mean, even on the webinars and things like that they hold, it's always just jam packed. So I'm excited to see how they actually expand the accessibility of MRC.
Yeah, I thought too, like we promised MRC that we won't say any direct quotes or anything, but I thought the FedNow keynote was really cool too, with the guy from the Federal Reserve. That was excellent on there too. So anybody watch out for MRC doing any sort of additional work with like FedNow and the Federal Reserve, because that session was super interesting, and make sure you sign up for any webinars that relate to that, because it was really cool. So yeah. So what do you think of the parties? What parties did you go to?
Of course, I went to the Ethica ones, the biggest one of the year.
I didn't go to that one.
You didn't?
I don't know if it's because I'm almost 40 now, but I was dragging ass so hard by Wednesday that I was in bed by 8. I was done. I was gone. Like maybe it's because I went too hard on Sunday, and I don't normally go that hard on Sunday, but like I was done and in bed by 8. I was watching YouTube on my Roku that I bring. So it was done.
I don't blame you. It was same as every year, just completely packed, really good food, and just great company this year. Basically, you missed out. It was a bunch of the Hoff members sitting around drinking cocktails, talking fraud. So
I like that. Yeah, I heard one of my employees, Chris, was hanging out over there. I think you guys were hanging out too.
I hung out with Chris all night.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, he'll never miss a party. That's for sure. I mean, he'll sniff one out. But yeah, and you guys did the House of Fraud meetup. I was double booked that time. I swung by for like a minute, but then I had to run to the actual MRC meet and greet. But how'd the House of Fraud meetup go? Tell me all about that.
It's so much fun to be able to like talk to each other in a human to human aspect, which is what Hoff has enabled for us. It's not.
Are we calling it Hoff? Is that what we've decided?
Yeah. I guess
okay. The Hoff. I'm gonna do
stuff
stuff with that. I'm gonna start the Hoff. But keep going.
So it's just awesome because like it's not a vendor and merchant situation ever in the discussions at Hoff meetups. It's just getting to know the other members as human beings who are also as passionate about fraud. So it's just cool. We just sat around drinking cocktails and just discussing our challenges, and then more so just our lives and getting to know each other as friends. And that's the part that I loved.
Yeah, and I think that we should keep that going at more at all events. I think every event we should have a House of Fraud meetup, like every single one. So you and I will keep coordinating on that and make sure that happens. But it is, we launched House of Fraud in January, and it's been a pretty good reception. And it's really nice to see, like when I was looking at the photos that you guys have posted of that, it's nice to see like the people that like participate the most, like the cream that rose to the top on that particular community, like all together. You guys all had your jackets on, and that's pretty cool. I like that. That was good. That was a lot of fun to see. So
we missed having you there. You and I should have coordinated a little bit.
We should have probably done a little bit, because I remember I was doing something before, and then I ran over there, and it was like only I had 5 minutes, and I thought that the welcome reception started at 5, not 5:30. So I like rushed to get down to the welcome reception, and then I realized it didn't start till 5:30, and then I had dinner at 6. So I ended up having to leave the welcome reception before it even started to get to my dinner back at Cosmo. And I have a thing where I'm never late. Like if you're late, like it's the ultimate disrespect. So I'm never late anywhere. You know, that's the rules. I'll get there way early. I won't ever be late. You know.
Next year, the Hoff meetup will you, Brian, and I will coordinate that a lot
We
more
need
ahead
to
of time.
we need to coordinate the House of Fraud meetup with my pool party. So you were eating some of the food, and I guess you got the norovirus. All that conference food. Are you talking about that, or are we talking about the nice dinners, not the norovirus filled dinners?
Nice.
Yeah, because that norovirus, like, I mean, it's fecal to oral. So that who knows what those guys, those cooks in the back were doing at MRC? Because it can be spread via food or person to person contact. So maybe someone did bring their sick kid from daycare, and they decided to bring them on their MRC trip. Don't do that, by the way, people. Like, work trips are work trips. Like, leave the little kids behind. Sorry, like they can last 3 days without you. But yeah,
Have you ever seen somebody bring a kid to MRC?
I know people that bring kids, but they don't like bring them to the show floor. But I know that they're up in their rooms 100%. I know people that bring their whole families. Yeah, there was people at this one that brought their whole families 100%.
Maybe they should be bringing their kids to the convention, since fraud is being committed by so many of like the teenagers.
I mean, bringing a teenager versus bringing your 6-year-old is a different thing.
I mean, start them early.
I mean, maybe. I was trying to see.
I mean, by 6 years old, playing video games and probably committing some sort of like fraud by 8 on video games.
Well, yeah, 100%. And usually it involves taking grandma's credit card, buying all your digital currency, and then saying, I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, MRC 2025 is March 10th through 13th. So it's back to the earlier in the month.
Good.
I mean, I like it later just because the weather is usually better, but it used to be, it was always like hot when we got there, and it sucked this time is because the pool was like 60 degrees the day that I wanted to go in it, and then we got up to like 75 the rest of the days.
What happened with the pool party? It was just too cold?
So yeah, it was like, so when I landed, let's talk about the pool party. So when I landed, Ryan McDonald from House of Fraud was like, where you at? I'm at the pool. And I was like, first of all, I just landed. So give me a second. But then he's like, the water's cold. But it was literally like 60 degrees the first day. So didn't go out there the first day. I went out there on Monday. I sat out there on Monday with my staff. Ryan actually he was in a sky suite. So he got us into the sky pool where they'll set like the towels up for you and all that. And I was in the pool that day. And because I couldn't go to my CMSPI thing, I thought I was going to be able to do that. So I had some meetings, and then I went to the pool there and sat out there that day and had a really good time out there, and then came back and had my dinners and whatnot. But it was the last 2 days that the weather got real nice out. And then it was great because I actually went golfing with a few vendors, like with like Patrick from Spec and Brant from At Data. I went golfing with those guys on Thursday with my team. And we're starting the official MRC golf thing, which I think what we're going to do is try and do it earlier in the week. You want to go golf? Do you golf?
So I have to admit, I'm the worst golfer in the world, but I just have like this fantasy of joining you boys on a golf trip and like literally decking out in the old school golf outfit and making you guys laugh.
All right. Well, we'll make sure that it happens next time. You'll be in on that. So it's going to happen. And yeah, because we're going to do a normal thing. A lot of people, like, we went to Top Golf on Monday night. A lot of us, like, I went with Riskified, they're our big partner at iHerb. So I went to Top Golf with them, but I think I want to like play because Top Golf balls, like, the balls suck because they're like the plastic ones with the chip inside. So they don't hit right. And I brought my own clubs because I'm that guy and I don't care. It's a driving range. But yeah, we went golfing on Thursday, but it was really, the weather was perfect, except the wind was between 22 and 27 miles an hour. So that was a lot. And like, thankfully, like, we're all not like the world's worst golfers. Like, Brant's like literally a scratch golfer, so let's not even take him. And so is Scott. But like, and Patrick's pretty good too. But like, so we could deal with the wind. But like that level of wind, like sitting at the pool, I bet you that the Aria had closed the pool down that day. I did go out and sit after my meetings on Tuesday too, when the weather was nice. Yeah, it was just, I'm trying to think like, yeah, Wednesday I did a walk. I took some of the CMSPI folks like Martha from CMSPI. We walked. She'd never been to Vegas before. So like her and I walked down the Las Vegas Boulevard so she could see what like the strip really is, how it's not as glamorous and nice as like the world thinks it is. It's pretty shitty and full of like daiquiri bars and people trying to like put bracelets on you and take money from you. So that was fun. Showed her the Forum Shops Mall.
Did you guys go to In-N-Out Burger at all?
No, I have In-N-Out here, so I don't give a shit about In-N-Out.
Oh, okay.
I eat that plenty. So restaurants that I like in Las Vegas, I like SDK the most. I like Carbone. I had dinner with Spec at the Bardot, the French restaurant there in Aria. That was excellent. I have never ate at that one. That was the only one I hadn't ate at. And that was absolutely excellent. I do like some of the food at Proper. I think the prices are criminal there. Let's see, what else do I like? I like Prime. I did not go this year. I know Certify still did their big thing there. I like Picasso. These are at the Bellagio. There is an excellent hand roll sushi place at the Cosmo on the second floor. And I didn't eat there this time, but I highly recommend it. They have like, it's like you order like a menu and like you get like 4 or 5 hand rolls and like they kind of like take you through this process. That place is excellent. Yeah, I mean, I don't like Beauty and Essex as much as other people like it, but I heard it was really good this time. Maybe the other 2 times I ate there, it wasn't. I just like SDK a lot, and I only ever want to eat there. I don't like Jean George. I feel like Jean George is extremely underwhelming, like extremely, and I don't understand why like the price point is what it is with that lack of enthusiasm and how they prepare those meals. So, yeah.
Well, Jean George is the one though where you can get the seafood buffet, like not the buffet, but like this like extravagant seafood thing delivered to the table that has oyster. And
we got that. We got the seafood tower at Bardot. Like we got the large one where it has like 3 levels. It has a lobster on the top. It has like on the bottom is like the oysters and then a bunch of shrimp and stuff around it. Like we got that at Bardot. I mean, what?
That's what you ate at Bardot?
I mean, it was our appetizer. I'm a big seafood tower guy.
Whoa. There's escargot.
We did not get the escargot. I won't do it. I won't do that. Like, no. So you know what was really fucked up is right before the Friday before I left for MRC, I went to a nice dinner here in Orange County, a place called Summit House. And while we were sitting at the bar having some cocktails, the guy next to us ordered escargot. And no, like the smell of that was so horrific while sitting at a fucking bar top that like as soon as I saw it on the menu, I was like, I thought I had norovirus like immediately. So it was not happening. Escargot is not happening.
Like
no, like seafood and snail are 2 very different things, like extremely different things. So overall, did you have a good show? What did you learn? Tell me 3 things that you learned at this show.
I wish that I had actually gone to the sessions. This was the first year that an employer gave me the session pass. Normally vendors, the employers will only give you the exhibit hall pass.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because I did have so many meetings, I was unable to attend.
Yeah, I only did a couple.
It broke my heart.
When I first started going to MRC, I was all sessions all the time. And now it's like I go mostly for meetings with my vendors or my prospective vendors. But my staff, they go to them and then they write me up a little thing afterwards, anything. But I will say for us, and one of my 3 is that it's extremely validating for me and my staff. And my staff brought it to me too. And I've said it to them a couple of times before, but like for us to know that we're doing the right things and that the decisions that we've made over the last year were correct, because other people are seeing the same things and they may or may not be as successful at addressing them as we are. So that's one thing that's nice for us is the validation that we are making the correct decisions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely understand. I think that merchant to merchant discussions and collaboration on how everybody's doing things is so incredibly important whenever it comes to even like payments, which can be so confusing to so many people. I think like the most amazing conversations that I had were around generative AI and how that's going to change our industry and jobs and also the orchestration platforms. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. I am so excited to
I'm-
see what is going to be coming out of generative and large language model AI in the orchestration
I think,
platforms and how that's going to
yeah.
make use as
So there's
merchants.
some cool Gen AI stuff that people are doing with like copilots. Sardine has one where like, and we talk like Soups and I talk about it on the episode that he did on my show, but they have a really cool one that they'd use where it's like, you can ask it a question like, hey, what should I be seeing on this order while you're like looking at this order? And it will bring you, that's a cool application of Gen AI. And then I know like there's some new chargeback companies that are using AI to generate obviously responses, which is long time coming on that, but also using
Yeah.
AI to predict this bin is going to have this win rate because we see that this bank like likes these replies like this. And that's like Sean Kelly's company. He again did an episode of my show recently where he talks about how they're using Gen AI on at Disputed for how to fight their chargebacks. But I think Gen AI is, I know everybody's scared of that word. It's a super huge buzzword right now, but it matters. Like us, I heard we use it in a lot of replies on customer service, and we can see a notable lift in
Yeah.
those responses and like and what the satisfaction that they bring. Uh, I think for me, it was really interesting to see how much payments was the focus this year. Like, I mean, it started as a fraud conference, but like almost everybody is talking payments, and payments is such the big focus now. It seems like I was telling Martha when we were walking on Las Vegas Boulevard, it used to be like super taboo to have more than one payment processor. And now, like, if you don't have more than one payment processor, like you're the odd man out. And I think it's super interesting for that, like to see like that
Or
shift.
yeah. Or the opposite end of the spectrum. Like you have these merchants that have 15 payment processors across numerous different regions. And now they're trying to consolidate down to just two.
Yeah. That's, I mean,
That
that's what
will
one of the
bring.
things, like, you know, we have these discussions because we take a lot of different payment methods internally. And like it's a constant discussion of do we want to take more or do we want to funnel people into less? And that's just, I think that's just forever going to be for us, you know, as local payment methods are obviously a big deal for us. So we want to make sure that like people can pay the way that they want to pay, but like it still is a lot of like chasing down all the different pieces that come with that, you know? But yeah.
What as far as like new trends that you ended up seeing and hearing about at MRC, what were some of like what was like the shocking new trend that you heard about?
I think for me, this actually will lead into my third one. Is I had been screaming about what abuse was going to become for 3 years. I remember I started talking about abuse on stage in 2021 at the September MRC, and everybody thought I was fucking crazy. And then I am so happy to see that abuse is like the number one word coming out of everybody's mouth at this conference. It's not chargebacks. It's not fraud. It's people abusing systems, whether it be rewards, whether it be refunds, whether that be just general exploits. Abuse is the number one thing that everybody seems to be caring about right now. How people are monetizing their sites in ways that it wasn't designed to be monetized. So I was so happy to see that people were talking about that and talking about solutions to that. And then companies are bringing solutions to that. You know, a lot of these fraud companies, they've been moving things into different places on the website instead of just checkout to combat that. And a lot of it we'll say is bots. We'll always say the word bots is doing it, but there's just a lot of hybrid traffic doing it. So yeah, it's so nice to see that people listen to me. People actually listen to me. I mean, you can go all the way back on my show. I have a big abuse episode that I did my very first season with Al from Riskified. It was like episode 6 back in 2022, where I'm screaming about abuse and how abuse is a bigger deal than fraud. And here we are 2 years later, and I'm right again, you know.
Well, then I have a really good question for you on that talk track.
Sure.
So there's a big debate about how much the public actually needs to be educated so that a way they're not victims of scams, but also that they're not committing these abuses.
Yeah.
However, if you educate the public, there's that flip side that more
Where they'll
people
do
are
it
going to.
more. Yeah.
So
I think
you
so.
educate, not do it, or do you
100%.
educate?
So this is what I think, that this is my opinion on how, and I'm somebody that has better soft skills than me can frame it better. But I think that we need to do a public education piece that doing these exploits is no different than stealing. It's no different than walking into Walmart, loading up your cart and walking out. The whole thing that all these people, especially in like these red states, are so concerned about. Crime is rampant. Look at them just going in and loading up a cart full of shit and walking out to the car, and they need to pay. We need more cops. We need to crack down on that. Well, then they go home and they load up 16 different things in their Bass Pro Shops cart and then order it and then call up their bank and say, it wasn't me. There's no difference in that. No difference. And that's where I think we need to do the education piece, that when you're faking a chargeback, when you're exploiting a website, when you're trying to return something but hoping you get to keep it, like, you're no different than anybody that's walking into a Walgreens and stealing a bunch of makeup and walking out. You are no different. You are the same person. You're not morally better in any way, shape, or form. You are just as bad as those people. So that's where I think we need to get in. We don't need to tell them what to do or how to do it or that this happens, but we need to publicly shame people more. I think we need it.
Do you really think that shame, that's what I'm worried about though. Do you really think that shame's going to do anything? Because there's no consequence to committing chargeback fraud.
Well, I've been saying for years that Visa and MasterCard need to let us punish people that abuse the system. So we already segment out compelling evidence 3.0 wins on our side, and we punish those accounts too. Like I'm not calling them at night being like, are you up right now? Where's my $35? But like, we are less likely to reactivate an account and more likely to send them like an invoice for their amount if it's a compelling evidence 3.0 win, because we know that they participated in it. Now, what I think needs to happen is I think the issuer needs to penalize those accounts more than just giving me my money back. They need to penalize that cardholder, like where if you do it 2 times, your account's closed. You cannot bank with us for 7 years, just like the old check systems thing, you know. Like there needs to be actual penalties for committing these types of crimes. There really needs to be.
No, I completely agree. There needs to be some sort of accountability on or retribution on the side of the people who are actually committing these loyalty abuses, these refund abuses and things like that. But it's just a matter of, where do you go in that flow? Who holds that accountability of holding that consumer accountable? Is it the merchant? Is it the issuer?
But it can never really be the merchant, because I'm just somebody trying to sell something. It needs to be a more compliance-oriented piece of the puzzle. Me personally, I think it needs to be the issuer. And I know it puts them in a hard spot, but like at the same time, like they're trying to abuse the system too. Like systems that were put in place to protect the consumer, now the consumer is abusing it. So I think that like people that are committing these types of abuses are not positive consumers. They're not trying to consume the way that things were designed, so they shouldn't be allowed to participate in society.
No, it's internet theft.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's no different than loading up your grocery cart and just walking out without paying it.
100%. Like, use these things when appropriate. And now, I use the chargeback system, but I use it when something's egregious. I try and figure it out with the merchant first. But it's like just the other day, I had to do an Instacart, and like the shopper, I said, refund this thing. And he did it anyway. And it was on my receipt. And I clicked the refund button. And that one I was like, look, I have this product now, but I don't want this product because it wasn't the right product. And I hit the button, like I did customer service, and they just refunded me. You know, but that's like I did the right. I didn't call my bank and try and charge back. You know, I didn't try and get free eggs. Like they gave me eggs that I had already said to refund. I don't want these eggs. And then they got them for me anyway. And now I got a whole bunch of eggs that I don't want. So, yeah. Some of these Instacart shoppers, like, I don't know what they come up with on these substitutions, but it's bonkers. Like, and sometimes it seems like they refuse to buy like the regular stuff, and they only want me to have organic things that cost twice as much. Like, the guy that messed up again the other day too, because I was like, I wanted a ham. It was Easter. I was like, go get me a ham. You know, it was the day before. And dude just goes and like substitutes sliced ham from like the deli. Like, that's not, and it was twice as much. Like, that's not a ham. Yeah, that's not a ham to cook. Like, I already had a prime rib that I was cooking that I got at Costco. But like, dude, sliced deli ham is not the same as like the ham. And like,
pile of
Yeah.
ham and put some skewers in it with some cherries
Yeah,
and some
and that was
pineapple.
another one that I was like, refund that. Like, I'm not having ham today, but the dude still gave me sliced ham. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on my show. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Definitely, Jordan. I love speaking with you. You're awesome.
Yeah, and we'll have you back on for a more formal episode that will go through the proper channels with your employer, and we'll talk about what you guys do, because I do like your guys' product, and I'd like to know a little more about what you guys are up to these days. So we'll have that one come out in the future. But again,
I would love.
thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to use the link in the description below to get your very own House of Fraud membership for only $1 a day. We have 7 original series, an amazing jobs board, and the best part of all is a community filled with fraud leaders and fraud experts for you to ask questions, learn from, and just participate in general fun. Because no one goes to school for fraud fighting, we've created the House of Fraud just for you. I can't wait to see you in there.